So on to chapter 8, the buying process and buying behavior. And we will cover in this chapter discussing the process of meaning, or that will discuss the meaning of customer strategy and process, explain the difference between consumer and business buyers, understanding the importance and alignment between the selling process and the customer's buying process, understanding the buying process of the transactional, consultative, and strategic alliance buyer, and discussing the various influences that shape customer buying decisions. And this is obviously important as well, as they all are in this book, but there are some that garner more importance than other. And developing a customer strategy is really key. And it's a carefully conceived plan that results in understanding the customer's perceptions and maximizing customer satisfaction and responsiveness. So making sure that you are listening, and I can't overemphasize in sales how important listening is, non-verbally and verbally, is to you crafting a good customer strategy. And that strategy is how you align yourself with what your customers' needs are, and being able to make real-time price comparisons, for example, at the moment, and being able to really adjust yourself and your proposal and your solution to meet the customer's needs. So there is the complex nature of customers' needs and their behaviors, because while a company may have certain ways that it operates, let's say it goes out to RFP every 3 years, and they're always out looking for new vendors. There's also the role of the person in a purchasing department. And some customers are complex because, let's say, the purchasing department is managing the RFP and the sales process for the HR department. That's the one that makes the decision on who they're going to hire. That's very complex because you're not sure. And I've seen cases where sometimes it's the purchasing department that makes the buying decision, and sometimes it's the HR department that makes the buying decision. But it depends on what company. So you really have to understand who is the influencer and who is the decision maker, which is sometimes very hard to be able to figure out. So, it's very complex. And the book also gives you other examples of how complex customer behavior is. Or just think about this. If somebody has a bad day and they walk in and it's your day to sit in front of them and try to sell your product, and they're having a bad day, there's almost nothing you're going to say that's going to try to win them over. Better to sometimes stop and say, so how you doing today? You doing okay? I just get this vibe that, that something's wrong. And let them pour out. Well, my son has got this going on at school and I'm just very distracted by it. And you say, oh yeah, I know my son does the same thing, or my niece does the same thing. There's a great example of how you can align your personal with what's going on with the customer. And sometimes when you do that, you can get them out of that negative headspace so that they can then hear you when you go back to discussing your product or service. And that's the human side of selling, and being empathetic and listening to those buying behaviors. And that adds to the nuanced complexity of selling, because again, there's a lot of different things that make it very complex. But it becomes a game when you're doing it, meaning like, how can you do that? And I don't mean a game in a bad way. I mean a game in like, how do you play your cards if you're playing poker? And sometimes just using your humanity and your ability to listen and being human is probably one of the biggest sales benefits that I've ever had, besides understanding what the customer's problems are about their company and being able to solve those kinds of problems. So then you have the customer or consumer versus business buyers. That's what you hear is business to consumer versus business to business. There's also business to government. So there's a lot of different business to consumer. That's you going to the grocery store, as I mentioned earlier, versus business to business would be Plant Moran is an accounting company, and let's say they're selling into Kelly's Services, let us do your accounting. That's a business to business transaction. Or companies that service the government, they're contractors. Those are businesses that provide a service to the government. And so in the workforce management, we do provide and have provided staffing to the government. So there's a lot of different types of business buying. There's new task buying, straight rebuying, modified rebuy. So make sure that you understand that. Sometimes that's, hey, we don't have that. We need this. We've never bid on this. We've never gone out to bid for this before. It's something new. Or it can be, like I mentioned, hey, every 5 years we go out to bid again from our current vendor just to make sure that we understand the market. So we'll go out to bid and we may find there's something better out there, or we might find, nope, we really like our vendor, but that was an exercise that we just had to go through. So there's many different buying strategies that are out there for businesses. There's the types of consumer business buying strategies. Again, habitual buying, variety seeking buying, complex buying decisions. I mean, think about yourself when you're out buying. I mean, for example, habitual buying, now on Instacart, which I use, it has what you previously bought. Do you know how many times I see myself going back to what I previously bought? More than I want to care to, because to think about, because I actually buy the same things over and over again. That's human nature. So Instacart obviously created a technology tool that would recognize my previous buying behaviors and then ask me when I join, hey, do you want to buy these again? So again, that is the habitual buying decisions, versus variety. And then the complex, so just make sure that you know those. Steps in the typical buying process, they provide the typical, because sometimes a lot of things are atypical. It depends on the buyer. And while you can typically follow the 80-20 rule, which is that 80% of the people would probably follow this typical buying model, but 20% probably don't. And so then your job as the salesperson is to figure out which one are the typical buyers and which one of them are the atypical buyers. Understanding the buying process of transactional, consultative, and strategic alliance buyer. This is what we've talked about before, which is the model that people are getting to now, which is to get away from transactional buying and really get into the role of consultative selling. I mean, I told you, I wanted to, at the very beginning, I wanted to be your trusted advisor, and that's why I gave you my background. I want you to trust that the knowledge I'm giving you, or the case study examples I'm giving you when I tell you my experiences in the business world as a salesperson or as somebody who has been sold, that is a case study. I'm giving you actual real case studies, and my case studies are also compounded with, I have watched them happen with other people, and I've read a lot in my industry of marketing, and I know a lot about that, and I'm going to share that with you. That's no different than if I'm going in and, let's say, I have a customer that's having problems with, let's just say, the staffing model. Maybe a staffing provider is not getting the workers to them fast enough. I might be able to come in and diagnose what's wrong and why that's happening and explain, well, here's what's going on in the market right now. We have a generational issue, and we've got the Bureau of Labor Statistics basically said and predicted in 2013 that by 2022 we were going to start to see the market constrict, because now we have 4 generations in the marketplace, and boomers and Gen Xers are going to start to retire. That's me giving them knowledge and information about what's going on that then makes me more consultative. Now I'm not here trying to sell you something. Now I'm explaining to you about what's going on in the market as why you're having problems. And then I can start to talk to you about my solution and how my solution will help you. So again, please make sure you read the difference between those different types of roles, because they become key in making you a better salesperson. When you can hit that consultative and strategic alliance buyer and seller, then you have really achieved the pinnacle of sales, because then it's easy to even go back to transactional salespeople, because like now I can sell anything. I can literally sell anything. I can walk in and sell somebody else's product for them, because I have figured out how to bring in, well, I'm a college professor, and I know about this, and here, if you think about this way or that way, because I'm out trying to help people. Why do I say I'm a college professor? Because it eases people's mind. It means that I have done the academic work and the rigor to be able to say, hey, this is my opinion, but if you're telling me that this is your problem, then I would recommend this solution. So that's how you get into that consultative role. So realize, reading, understanding buying behavior, one of the key pieces of this that you are going to understand and help you understand buying and buyers, meaning you yourself as a person who's buying, but you as the person who's selling, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then also psychological needs and security needs, is that there's a pyramid, and on the bottom of the pyramid is, and it's on, it's on the page, you can see it, are basically psychological needs that have to be met, and also security. So do I have house in a secure place that I can rest? Do I have water? Do I have heat? Do I have food? Those are your basic level needs, and those must be met first before you can move on to more of the self-actualizing at the very top of the pyramid, where you have met all of the needs below, and now you are in a more, quote, enlightened state. Buying behaviors of people who, for example, are in that enlightened state are much different than buying behaviors of people below. So think about the difference between that 1% of the wealthy and how they live their lives versus people who go to work every day, miss the time with their children, and all of these factors that let's say the general labor population struggle with. So when you get money and money is no longer an issue, you're still going to have problems, but they're just different problems. So when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you start to be able to understand where your buyers are at, not just as a company, because startups are different than more mature companies, but also the people that are in the companies and what their needs are. So if you have somebody that you call on and they are absolutely stressed, you can barely get a hold of them, then the first thing you should say is, I've got a solution that can automate half of what you do to make your job easier. But you can go spend time with your kids and not spend time at the office. You're going to have somebody perk up because now you're solving not just a problem for their company, which is there's so much to be done, but you're solving a personal problem for them as well. So make sure that you read about that. And then the perception, new customer needs to be, they have their needs that need to be formed and answered. Buying motives, again, you're going to want to make sure you understand the buying motives of the people that you're approaching and potential customers. Make sure that you're reading all the case studies. There's one on NASCAR. And again, make sure that you are reading through these different buying processes in different cultures too, because they are different in different countries. It's one of the reasons why Walmart did not do very well globally. I mean, they did well in most countries, but they actually had to pull out of Germany because the little smiley faces that Walmart uses when the price drops, people in Germany do not respond to that at all. So they didn't do well in Germany because they didn't culturally understand the behaviors of the buyers in Germany are different than that in America. So make sure that you're, again, doing the learning activities and understanding, these are going to give you the practical application that you need to put these practices in. But again, start to align yourself with what you're hearing in the book and what you're hearing from me and how you see that happening in the sales role out there. You are constantly being sold by something on YouTube, on an advertisement, or when you walk into a store and somebody wants to spritz you with perfume, or the cash register clerk says, did you find everything that you needed? All of those is that you are a buyer. So start to look at yourself and the book from you as a buyer, but then also learn how you as a salesperson would react to those same things.